Hello everybody, how you doing today? I hope you're having a good day. It's a day that you have the opportunity to share the gospel message and be a good example for Christ. And it's a day the Lord has made, so rejoice and be glad in it. Hopefully the weather's going to cooperate where you are today, and if not, just make the best use of and deal with it the best way that you can. Because let's face it, is there anything you can do about the weather? No. So, yeah, we can complain about the weather, but what good does that do? It doesn't do any good at all. Okay, the title of the lesson today, and I hope that you listen to this and I hope that you share this message. It's very important, and more Christians need to hear this. True evangelism is your job. I mean, yeah, there's several things. We can talk about that, but the job of the Christian is to help people get to heaven. I mean, if you want to put it in the most basic form, the job of any Christian is to help people get to heaven. And if you're not doing that, then you're not being a true Christian. So, if you claim to be a Christian, and I'm reaching out to you, see, far too many Christians fail God in proclaiming the message of the gospel through evangelism. See, one does not have to be a professional preacher to evangelize. See, the Greek word used that is translated to evangelize just means to proclaim or to speak. And yes, this is in reference to faith or something else. I mean, and technically you can evangelize about hobbies or anything else that you're interested in. See, the word evangelist denotes one who proclaims, and rather than the one who holds an office called the preacher. There is a distinction there. Just one who proclaims. And really, if you claim to be a Christian, that is your job. You are an evangelist. And so, we all know a person who can be passionate about a hobby. And you probably know someone like this. They go around and they meet people, and it's not long before they start talking about their hobby. And whatever it might be, maybe it's model trains or arrowhead hunting or dove hunting or something else. Whatever it is, it does not take long for some to realize they're passionate about their hobby. Well, let me ask you this. When was the last time you saw someone passionate about their faith? I mean, think about that. How long has it been? I mean, it's probably been a while for some of you. And when was the last time you remember someone at church so excited about their salvation, they were telling others about how they feel and the joy that they were expressing and what God had done for them? And my guess, it has been too long. See, as with any emotion, yeah, there's peaks and valleys. And some start with very high emotions, and over time, these emotions just fade into the valley. And the problem is, a lot of people get into that valley, they're content to stay there. And they don't leave that valley. And our faith may start out with zeal and excitement, but often there's no atmosphere for it to continue. I mean, there's not others encouraging us to continue in this. And oftentimes, those who have been around for a long time will ask you to tone it down a bit. Now, why is that? Well, see, this happens. I mean, it's a shame that it happens, but it does. And I've seen it. I'm sure some of you have seen it. Why should you not be allowed to express your joy over your salvation? And so I've seen young men with zeal who wanted to talk about the Bible. And the old timers begin to avoid that one. Oh boy, here he comes again. He's going to pull out his Bible and start talking about it. I mean, saying such with disdain. I mean, that Christians should not do that. They should be encouraging that. And the problem here is the fact that the old timers have become complacent and lazy. And nobody likes to hear that. Nobody likes to be told you've become lazy. You become complacent. How many times in Scripture does it tell us to awake and stop being lazy? I mean, several times. I mean, James chapter 4 includes that statement there. And so, the problem here is the fact, like I say, they become complacent and lazy. And these people who have invested so much time into their faith, I mean, the old timers, they should be proud of it. And they should be continuing what they started out doing. But somewhere along the line, they just fell into the valley and wondered, what's the use of trying to get back to the peak? I mean, they do that. And I'm sure if you're really honest with yourself, you'll see that maybe, okay, that applies to me as well. Whether I'm a preacher or whether I'm just a member going to church. I mean, what's the use in getting back to the pinnacle up there? Well, there is a reason for it. See, in the first century, it says the disciples, or everyone in the church, went everywhere preaching the word. And that means all of them. Just read the context there. Acts 8, the great persecution against the whole church. And many of them were scattered. But what did they do? They run and hide? Hide under the bushes and hide around the corner? No. They went everywhere preaching the word. And why is it that so many today feel that they don't need to be doing that? I mean, that's something to consider. Why are we not doing that ourselves? Well, one might respond that is what we pay the preacher for. See, last time I checked, every Christian is a preacher or teacher in some form or fashion. And we need to be. And we do teach a lesson by our behavior. And just the question is, what kind of lesson are we teaching? Are we teaching that Christ is the most important thing in our lives? Or are we teaching that the world has more allure than Christ? So the evangelism is the work of the church. And until you realize that every Christian is part of that church, and every Christian should be doing the work of the church, see, they're not even going to try. See, I saw this quote the other day from Charles Spurgeon, and if you want to see the meme, just go down a few posts down below this one on my page. He says, "It is the whole job of the whole church to preach the whole gospel to the whole world." I mean, that is so obvious. That is so awesome for somebody to say something like that. And it is the truth. It is, if you claim to be a Christian, it is your job to share the gospel message with as many people as you can. See, we're told that we are a royal priesthood in 1 Peter 2 and verse 9. But notice the whole verse. First of all, he explains our condition and who we are. Then he tells us the reason for it. He says, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." Now, was Peter writing to Timothy or another evangelist when he wrote that? No. He was writing it to the saints. And last time I checked, if you're a member of the church, you fit in that category. Yes, you are chosen. You are a royal priesthood. You are a holy nation, a people for God's own possession. But the reason you are is that you may proclaim or evangelize the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his light. In other words, talking about the gospel message. That is our duty. And a lot of people just let this fact just go slide right on by, and they just ignore it. And sure, not all can or should occupy a pulpit. I mean, but that should not stop them from sharing the greatest message to mankind. In fact, I know several women who are probably better evangelists than a lot of preachers are. But they don't do it in the pulpit. But they do go out and share. They evangelize. They go places and they talk about God. They talk about salvation and the church. And they have a zeal that really would put a lot of preachers to shame, not to mention most of the members in the church. And so, yeah, God's salvation is for all. And it appears many are keeping it to themselves, and that is not good. You're not being an effective workman of God. So many suggest you must go to school to learn how to preach or evangelize. You know, the response is that that's just one way you can do so. But if you have the desire, you're going to learn for yourself by study and application. Be like an Ezra. You remember in the Bible, Ezra chapter 7 and verse 10, Ezra purposed in his heart to learn the law of the God and to do the law of the Lord, so that he could teach God's statutes in Israel. So we need to learn, we need to do, and we need to teach. And that's what we need to do as Christians. Sadly, many people who call themselves Christians, well, they learned it a long time ago, and they did it a long time ago, but they didn't do the other part. And they still not doing the other part. See, every one of us has opportunities to share the gospel message all the time. Now, how hard can it be to tell someone that Jesus, the Son of God, died on the cross for you and me? I mean, how hard can that be? Repeat after me. Okay. I mean, it's not hard to do it. It's just getting up, mustering up the courage to speak up and tell someone. I mean, when you're going by and it's a beautiful day, well, yeah, just respond. God does great work, doesn't he? I mean, you never know. You might open up someone's thinking. Maybe they've been thinking something and God just put you in their pathway to open up their eyes and then for them to ask questions. I mean, you never know. Now, one of the best evangelism tools we have is our example. You know, Jesus condemned the Pharisees for telling people what to do, but not doing it themselves. And so, yes, our example needs to be such that we claim to be a Christian, but yet our behavior, our lifestyle demonstrates that we are a true Christian. And if we are a true Christian, we will be sharing Jesus with others, sharing the gospel message, the hope of salvation. I mean, the purpose of our faith. And so if we stand for the truth, there's no room for the error that leads souls to hell. And might I add, the silence that leads souls to hell. See, the Great Commission was given primarily to the disciples. You know, we read that in Matthew 28. He says, go teach all nations, baptizing, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them. And then he says, teaching them to observe all things that whatsoever I've commanded of you. Well, when Jesus gave the Great Commission, he was giving them a command to go teach. And what were they supposed to do after they make disciples? Teach them what? What they were commanded. I mean, that includes the Great Commission. Yes, that includes us, all those who are the faithful of God. So go make the disciples, go preach the gospel, be an example, follow the instructions given to us to spread the word and increase the knowledge of Jesus Christ among the people. That is the only hope for souls and by extension, the nation or any nation upon this earth, putting God first. So think about those things. I mean, like I say, this message I think should be so powerful that you're willing to share it with others. And I encourage you to do that. And just hit that little share button down there and put it on your timeline because it's important. And the message that's going to be printed out for you in just a few moments. I mean, it is so important, folks. I mean, we cannot let this fact slide. And if you want to go to heaven, you better be evangelizing because you're running the risk of not being a worker for the Lord. You know, we go to church and we sing the songs, I want to be a worker for the Lord, and sharing the gospel message and things like that. We sing those things, but then do we actually do those things? I mean, we need a little reflection here. Yeah, some of us may have to say, Lord, I repent. I have not been faithful, but let me get started. Let me get trying. And if you need help knowing what to do and how to do it, all you have to do is reach out. There's Christians willing to help you, and there are others, some like me on the internet. We'll be able to work with you and help you. And there's many people, even on Facebook, that have dedicated their lives to serving God, and they can tell you how. They can give you some pointers. and they can help you. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to help people get to heaven. And whether that's members of our local congregation or whether it's people around the world, our job is to help people get to heaven. So think about that, and Lord willing, we'll be back again tomorrow with another lesson. Bye-bye for now.